I wanted to take you back to last weekend because there are those who watch politics closely and then there are smart people. You know what it's like on election day. What's it matter? They're all the same people say, and it's a common refrain you hear from most who really only engage with politicians on polling day when reams of paper plastered in how to vote instructions are thrust into your hands. We saw this awkward dance between the general public and the political class play out last weekend in New South Wales with the Upper Hunter by-election. The National Party retained the seat like they have done for the past 90 years. That is, despite the outgoing member, a bloke called Michael Johnson, resigning after allegations surfaced he assaulted a female sex worker last year. It turns out even accusations like that didn't do much to dent the Nats' popularity in the region. Is that alarming? Of course. Is it surprising the party wasn't punished at the ballot box? Absolutely not. Why? Because everyday Aussies who don't follow #OzPoll or other hashtags closely on social media will probably like politicians to piss off once this pandemic is well and truly over. This lack of engagement, driven by the absurdity of politics and the lack of appealing candidates, is why incumbency will become a powerful tool in the upcoming federal election. Just as it was in the Upper Hunter and Tasmania and WA and Queensland before that. To watch the state of politics closely right now makes you understand why no one sensible would want to enter the fray of public life, let alone the circus that is Canberra. Former Labor Minister Kate Ellis summed it up perfectly. Today I watched Question Time for the first time since I left. It was a terrible mistake on my part. If any politician thinks that fast serves any purpose or assists the public to gain understanding, well, all respect of the work they do, then they are kidding themselves. It is dire, absolute parody, Ellis tweeted last week. Having seen this display during the last sitting week, it's pretty hard to disagree.
OK, well, I'm going to say to the Prime Minister he can pause. He had done that and he'd moved on. And I'm asking you to return to the question.
Happy to do that, Mr Speaker. So
I don't care whether you're happy or not. Okay. You need to return to the question.
With all the carry-on from the government and opposition about standing up for hard-working Australians and the working class, what they've all failed to notice is that they've all merged into one indecipherable mess. Show me someone who can pick the difference between the major parties right now, and I'll show you someone who is guilty of spending too much time on Twitter and not enough time talking to their friends, family, and more importantly, their foes offline. The less reported facts from the Upper Hunter returns is that the regional coal mining electorate has turned away from the major parties. But the ALP should and would be worried that not being able to land a blow on the coalition may have federal implications. Scott Morrison will be returned to office, not because of anything he and his charges have achieved. I mean, look how well Hotel quarantine is going, not to mention the disastrous vaccine rollout, which would make for a funny plot line for something like Yes Minister if it wasn't so seriously flawed. No, they'll be returned because the federal opposition has no clue what it's doing or what it wants to be. The ALP at all levels actually appear to have no clue who they are, or more importantly, who they represent anymore. Worryingly though, for swinging and quietly progressive voters, they seem to be paralysed by this narrative that the coalition government are more aligned to the working class voters who live in traditional Labor seats. All politicians, however, also seem unable to grasp the idea that modern voters are becoming quite fluid with their support. Take, for example, someone like myself, who was raised in a working class yet conservative electorate, who is now privileged enough to have a stable and steady income. I'd have absolutely no issue paying the amount of tax I do if our schools were world-class institutions, our kids were topping their education tables, our healthcare system wasn't seeing 7-year-olds die in ED waiting rooms, like what happened in Perth recently, or our poor senior citizens weren't living in conditions akin to guinea pig cages. There is a real chance for Labor to make inroads when we next head to the polls. There are beacons of diversity and fresh ideas waiting in the wings of Parliament House and beyond right now. But given the COVID climate and the crazy machinations of Canberra, they are unable to get any clean air in party room or caucus meetings. Even the media, as the exploits of agitators usually make headlines which do nothing but fatigue the vast majority of Australians that are too busy trying to make ends meet than to pay much attention to the goings-on in Canberra. So as things like pre-selections loom and talks of campaign strategies get louder, here's a message to all political parties or wannabes. Be brave. Be different and think outside the square when it comes to candidates and policy. Give us real options at the ballot box instead of more of the stale same.